Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today we're going to continue on the home study course from Walter and Lau Russell on universal law, natural science, and living philosophy. We are now on lesson 3, and we've talked about meditation scientifically explained. This particular episode is meditation scientifically explained. God is light. One of the favorite topics of Walter Russell is this concept of light that is more than what you see from the sun. Light is everything, and his explanation of light is really transformative. Check out the episode on the secret of light. This is a short little lesson. Some of these lessons in the home study course that we're doing, they're a little bit shorter, but each one has some impact, and we'll do each one separately. So, meditation scientifically explained, God is light. God's communion within his own being is a sequential transition from the still, unconditioned light of his knowing and the moving, conditioned lights of his thinking. The light of his knowing is undivided. It is a balanced equilibrium. The two lights of his thinking are divided. They are the electric pulsations of two-way motion which build thought forms for recording his knowing. God's light wave universe is the invisible still light of mind knowing. God's electric universe is the product of God's knowing, expressed by the visible pulsing lights of his dynamic thinking. Man is light. We cannot say more to you than that. For God's communion with his self is identical in principle and practice with your communion with your self-oneness as God. The eternal light of eternal life is the balanced light of the soul-mind universe. Your electric body is the product of your knowing expressed by your thinking, as God's universal body is the product of God's knowing expressed by his thinking. If you can but fully realize the vitally important fact, you will be farther ahead than you could possibly be by reading all the books in the Congressional Library. When you commune with full understanding, you become aware of your oneness with God. You become more and more aware of the fact that God's mind is your mind, that his knowledge and power are your knowledge and power. When God becomes your teacher, you need no earthly teachers, to the extent that you become aware of God as the still light which centers you as soul of you. You are God. As you become more and more enabled to forget your body, awareness, and find yourself alone in that stillness of cosmic light, you form inspired conceptions of ideas which come to you in timeless flashes of that light, which you do not see but know because of its illumining presence. You feel the ecstasy of it in the light of your soul and in the inspiration which accompanies your exaltation. All geniuses conceive their ideas with that accompanying ecstasy and exaltation of inner thinking. They then think those ideas into form. After the mental image is clear, they give a material body to each idea by outward thinking through their senses for others to interpret in the measure of their knowing. To sum up this as a formula, we might say that meditation is a sequential journey from the zero of mind knowing through the action of mind thinking to the rest point which centers two-way thinking, and back again to the zero of mind knowing. The more intensely you can comprehend this definition, the more simple you will find all things in life. For we do not depart from the above formula in any decision or action of life, or the solution of any problem of life, nor do we depart from it during this entire course of lessons. It is very basic, as you will discover as we proceed. We urge you, therefore, to give deep thought to it and recognize its prototype in principle in all things, even unto life, death, and rebirth, as being the same effect as in-breathing, out-breathing, and repeated in-breathing. Desire in God to manifest his being by producing imaged forms, by projection in light waves of motion from the stillness of his light of knowing, is the energy of the universe, which he is eternally creating. Desire in you is likewise the energy which enables you to create your universe. We will talk much later on about your energy and God's energy in relation to the motive power extended to you from God and your use of it. Constant communion with your source of energy will give you both knowledge and power to use it by giving form to your inspired conceptions under your cosmic control instead of your sensed control. Communion with God in meditation means talking with God in mind silence. The love nature of God. In the last lesson, we took you one step nearer to the simplicity which underlies your interchange between knowing and thinking. We will now take another step in that direction by having you understand the love nature of the universe and how that love principle parallels the simple formula given to you in Lesson 2. Communion with God exalts you to the ecstasy of that universal love principle of God and of nature. Ecstasy is the one undivided emotion, the balanced ecstasy of love for which there are no opposites. The reaction to the giving of love is love regiven. When your meditation gives to you the love nature of God, you will then know that there is no evil, nor sin, nor bad in God or in nature. There is not but good in God's universe. In communing with God directly or through those moods of nature which lead you to God, you become aware that his nature is your nature. In your deep communion, you feel only the universal love nature of God extending through you to all the universe. You then love all things, for there is not but love extending through you and from you. Your own ecstasy tells you that. Imagine yourself communing with God indirectly, such as listening to the heavenly rhythms of God's heartbeat in a masterful symphony, while thus enraptured by the divine rhythms reaching your very soul. Can you possibly imagine yourself thinking evil or thinking sinfully by planning to cheat or lie or steal? No, of course you cannot. The reason you cannot is because you are reflecting the love nature of the universe in your spiritual self, and there is no sin in that love nature to reflect. That is why you should seek God in meditation immediately if you indulge in angry or unkind thoughts. You must restore the balance of the universal love principle, else the toxins of unbalanced thinking will upset the balanced normalcy of your body rhythms, which all illnesses are. From the constant habit of meditation, make it a moment-to-moment continuous attitude of your mind in order to keep in tune with the universal rhythms of God's balanced thinking. Be in tune with them always. Never stray far enough from God awareness to allow the slightest imperfection in your work, your health, your friendships, your business plans, or any achievement whatsoever. The more you become fully aware that you cannot do anything of yourself alone and desire partnership with the whole universe, the more you will find that you can say in the deep depths of your communion, I am the universe. I am all that is. For the light of my Father is all that is, and I am that light. I and my Father are one. That is cosmic meditation, for that is the thinking of the new race of cosmic man now in its borning. In those deep depths you can desire what you will, and behold, it standeth before you. It is recorded that every man who has known the illumination into cosmic consciousness has first lost all awareness of sin or evil. He finds himself in a universe of love in which there is no evil. Meditation leads you into the reality of love and away from the unreality of love. When one is wholly mind, he can know no evil, for there is no evil. God and his universe are founded upon love. Love is all there is. All nature manifests love. The entirety of creation is the manifestation of love. Every effect of motion in nature is a manifestation of the nature of God. For nature gives its all in every action and re-gives equally in every reaction. If that were not so, the movement of the planets would not be predictable. The electric heartbeat of nature expresses love in both halves of each cycle of the universal heartbeat. Nature never takes, for God never takes. Nature always gives equally, for God always gives equally. God's equally balanced giving, for re-giving, is never violated in nature. It could not be violated, for nature is an extension of God's nature. For this reason, the balance of nature can never be upset. When you commune with God, do not have desire written upon your heart for that which is to be given to you. Ask rather to be inspired as to what you can give and how, in order to be worthy of that which will surely be given you if you first give. Unless you first give, you will not be re-given. Let your thinking be energized to express love by first giving love, in order that its inviolate reaction will re-give love. To give possessions is not giving love. Love can only be given from yourself to another self. And gold given without self is like unto sounds of music given without soul. To extend love is to multiply the light of it 1,000-fold. To the extent that you are illumined with the light of love, which comes only from communion with source of love, to that extent you will be enabled to manifest your genius in masterly creation of your own. The very purpose of meditation is to enable you to give body forms to ideas conceived by your mind. Unless the light of love which illumines you is extended into your creations, they are but dead things which cannot endure. The one point we wish to accentuate is that we are now telling you is universal law, inescapable and inevitable law, which cannot be violated, just to tell you this is not enough. Talk it over with God in your heart, and you will really know that if you defy the law to the slightest extent, it will hurt you equally, while if you work with that law, it will work with you to the fulfillment of your every desire. How does meditation help you to create? A musician asks how meditation helps a musician to compose a symphony. He claims that teachers are necessary because of technique. Teachers can never teach you to be a poet, musician, artist, inventor, or creator of anything. God is the only one who can teach you to create. A teacher can tell you how to give a material body to your concept, but only God can give you your inspired concept. In other words, a teacher can give you a technique for expressing your idea, but he cannot become your soul from which your concept extends. If the teacher can re-inspire you with his inspiration, that inspiration of his reflected in you awakens the sleeping genius which is within you. But no one can teach you that. If you've been inspired by listening to Paderewski, he has not taught you anything. He has enabled you to recognize the light within yourself by his re-illumining. The beauty of music is not in its technique, it is in the soul of its creator. Neither is it in the sound vibrations of music, it is in the silence of the light from which the sound sprang. You can know music and think it without having acquired the technique of expressing it, or without producing sounds to give it a body. Your inner ears can hear the music in the silence of God's eternal rhythms, and you can interpret your moods into the rhythms of the universal heartbeat, as Beethoven interpreted the mood of the moonlight into the rhythms of it without having any teacher but his God self. Consider the life of any great musical genius. What he finally produces in a written composition first begins in his soul. He must first find aloneness with self by getting away from all other people, even from his own body awareness. He must suppress all outer influences to seek that stillness from within, which the inner ears of his soul can hear, the rhythms of the universal heartbeat of God's creative thinking. To find that stillness in the light of knowing, he must stop thinking in order that he can conceive idea from the light of all knowing. From the ecstasy of that stillness, the inspiration is born in his very soul. The motive for his symphony gradually takes form through the heartbeat of his thinking, which he extends from the stillness of his soul. He then ceases to extend it, again to find the stillness of the light, which is gradually giving him his motive through inner inspiration. This is the mood of all creative geniuses during the inspiring and ecstatic hours during which they commune with God. By such communion, you awaken and unfold your own genius. There is no other way to become a cosmic being. There is no other way to acquire inspired knowledge to uplift you from earth into the high heavens of the kingdom of the soul where cosmic man dwells. Not until the creator of a cosmic idea wishes to give it a material body can a teacher be of any help. Giving an inspired concept a material body means to extend the conception from the consciousness of mind through thinking to the sounds of musical instrument or the symbols of a written manuscript. That is purely a question of technique. A teacher is helpful in the acquirement of a technique in all of its mechanics. In giving your conception a material body, many years of technical and scientific practice are needed. The science of the octave spectrum of color or tone is needed for expressing each of the arts. For from those octave wave rhythms, the poet, painter, architect, sculptor, or musician gives rhythmic bodies to his inspired conceptions. The architect must first go to the source of all inspiration for his conception. He does not need to be an engineer or mathematician for that. But when he builds the cathedral of his inspired imaginings, he must know the technique of the engineer and the mathematician in order to give a material body to his imaged one. Likewise, the painter, sculptor, poet, or musician needs to be informed, either by books, teachers, experimentation, or experience regarding the techniques of giving bodies to his spiritually conceived ideas. Remember, however, that technical information is not knowledge. You can be informed through the senses, but you can acquire knowledge only through desire of the soul for illumining with the light of all knowing. Knowledge is of the soul, and the soul is not concerned with techniques. To the soul, they have no existence, for your consciousness can conceive a greater symphony, poem, monument, painting, or temple than you could ever give to a material body, no matter how perfect your technique is. The soul's greatest masterpieces are never produced on earth. They never descend from their high heavens of the mind universe. No musical master can produce in sound the music which he hears in his soul while in communion with God. Physical sounds can be heard by anyone, but silence from which they spring can be heard only by a cosmic God-conscious being while his soul is in communion with the universal soul. Speaking again of techniques, an electric machine can remember information recorded upon it electrically, and it can repeat it countless times with accuracy. The electric machine is sensed, wired for that purpose. It is a body without a soul. It obeys the will of an intelligence which presses a button. Many humans are but electric machines which remember and repeat information recorded upon their senses. People say of such persons that their technique is perfect but soulless. That means that God awareness in them has not yet been awakened. That is what we mean by saying that teachers can give you techniques, but only God can awaken the light of cosmic inspiration in you. Many unawakened humans forever repeat the ideas of others, such as those who stand in assembly lines, each one electrically sensed to do his unthinking, unknowing part like an electrically driven automaton. But many there are who also stand in assembly lines that perform work automatically with their bodies while their souls are in communion with God in his high heavens. These are the cosmic ones among men who are seeking to find the kingdom of the soul's high heavens. They gradually break away from the treadmill of life through communing with God. John Jones of the assembly line can escape from John Jones and be Rachmaninoff or Shakespeare or Phidias at will. Through meditation, John Jones can roam the universe and be alone with God in the deep woods, hearing the rippling fall of waters or the breezes in the pines above the crash of factory wheels or gears. No matter how heavy the burden of the treadmill of life may be, or how bitterly your body may be chained to earth, you may escape from it and be exalted among men by hearing the still small voice within you, whispering inspired words in God's language of light. And that is lesson number 3. An important reminder and covering key information that Walter Russell gives, that the light is the key and that love is the nature of God. Embracing this love seems to be where power is gained. And then using meditation to be creative, to be artistic, is such a beautiful lesson. You can look at 2 paintings. They can almost look identical, but the one that came from the soul is the one that you will always like. It is the key to creation. You can watch a movie and see that it's just generic by the book, or you can watch one and it comes from the soul. It has a quality about it. It's been created with the God mind. It's really the only test to any song or poem or book that you hear. If it's coming from the soul, then you know it's good. And so if you want to find success in whatever you're doing, if you're writing books, if you're making music, if you're an artist, you may reach points where you feel like you're just going through the motions. In those situations, I recommend to just stop and meditate. Using meditation to commune with God, you enter into the God mind and you find inspiration for what you really want. So this is a good beginning. We are now getting a scientific explanation of God. So far, we've talked about God is light and considering further technique. And the first one was meditation scientifically explained. All interesting lessons. I am excited for the future of this course. It appears that it's building on itself, and these later lessons should be really interesting. The next one will be how to meditate and questions answered concerning meditation, and there's some interesting Q&A in that particular episode. So hopefully you guys still like these lessons. And I have about 3 different things I'm doing lessons right now. The Harry Thomas Hamblin, the Psychiana, and we're doing the Walter Russell. So just let me know if you're still interested in this. The lessons don't do as well once we get into the later lessons. So if it's still popular enough, I promise we'll continue to record these, and I hope it helps you. I hope it helps you with meditation and creating the reality that you want. Sending out light and love to everyone that's listening. All episodes of The Reality Revolution can be found at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.